page 2 of the second part of the multiple choice, right? This video should be a little bit shorter. So if we look at another one, right, we have another sine function to look, or another trig function to look at, right? The height of a running trail is modeled by the quartic function y equals f of x, where x is the distance in miles from the start of the trail and y is the height in feet relative to sea level. So it's telling you if this trail has a minimum height of 16 feet below sea level, which function could represent a running trail whose minimum height is half of the minimum height of the original trail. So, right, they're giving you the 16, and right, I'll just kind of point it out to you, right, the 16 is here, that's the minimum, that's the minimum. We're not really worried about the maximum. It looks like the max is like maybe around 9. So that means we want to figure out like the minimum height, like how could we find a height that is what? Half of that, which would be 8, right? And they're giving you, right, basically 3 transformations from the 3 characteristics, right? So this would be, 1 would be a transformation of the frequency, 2 would be a transformation of the midline, right, a shift up or down, and then the third one's a transformation of the amplitude, like how big this sine wave, right, is from like a min to a max, right? So first one, right, frequency is not changing anything about my wave except for how like much shorter it is, right, or how many more waves are going to fit in like a period, right? So this is going to actually make my wave like look a little bit more like drawn out, but it's not going to change my min or max, right? So right off the bat, we know answer choice 1 doesn't work. That means number 1 doesn't work and number 3 doesn't work, right? So we're already like halfway there. Number 2 is the midline, which basically means, right, I'm going to be adding 8 to all of my values, right? Because I'm shifting it up 8. Well, if my min was negative 16 and I shifted up 8, where's my min going to end up at? Negative 8, right? So this is one that's good, right? So it doesn't really help me because 2 is a choice, and then also 2 and 3 is a choice. And then number 3, we're having essentially, right, the min and the max. So if I go to this point right here and I know the min is negative 16 and I say negative 16 times 1/2, what answer am I going to get? Negative 8, right? It doesn't matter what my max is, right? I'm only really looking at my min right now. So in this case, right, same thing. Answer choice number 3 works. So the only correct answer is number 4, 2 and 3. Same thing, right? They're always going to hit you on the 3 important pieces of any sort of trig function: frequency, midline, right, or shift up or down, and then my amplitude, which is how big or small my wave's going to be. Number 6, right, the graph of y equals 2 to the power of x minus 4 is positive on which interval? If I'm thinking interval, right, I'm thinking my x values. I'm going to go to my calculator, graph this, right? When you graph it, you should get something that kind of looks like this, right? And I'm just going to only worry about my x values. So I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. I see, right, that my graph kind of starts right in the negative y's, and then what happens? Shoots up, right? Where does it cross the x-axis? At 2, right? So that means, right, on my x-axis is where it starts being, right, 2 or positive, and then it's going to be positive, right, because this line goes on and on forever and ever, right, into the y. That means it's also going into the infinity on my x-axis too. Answer choice number 2. Keep it rolling, right? We're looking at number 7 now. Number 7 says Tim deposits $200 into a savings account. His annual interest rate is 2.7% and compounds monthly. He uses this equation to determine how much money he will have after T years. Which equation is equivalent to Tim's equation? So here, right, I don't really know what they're asking you too much for on this, other than like you're just kind of looking, and what I did first, right, was put this into my calculator, right, this first little piece, I'll even highlight it, and just see what you get. And what do I get? I get 1.00225, right? So that actually equals this, right? Um, and right, I know if what's happening up here, right, with the 12t is really, right, if I raise a power to another power, what am I doing? I'm just multiplying. So answer choice number one works, right? This one here wouldn't work because you're adding, not subtracting, right? This is you're getting a number smaller than one. Doesn't work. Over here, you have to know that this 1 is also being raised to 12 to the power t, right? They brought it out of the parentheses, no. And here, right, the 300 is definitely not being raised to this 12t, so you know that one also doesn't work, all right? And then number 8, right, my screen kind of got cut off on this one, but it's asking which equation is true for all real values of x. I'm not going to go through this one, right? I just know if it's true, that means both sides of my equal sign have to be the same. So, right, all of these are x to the power 4 plus x. What am I going to do, right? I'm just going to FOIL all these and then combine like terms and see which one is correct. If I did this just by looking at it. I don't know. That's one for you to do, and I'll put the answer in at the end of the video. All right, guys, that's multiple choice part 2 in the books.